Let me take you back to the past to play those epic games that would last. There you are, sitting on the rough, soda-stained carpet of your living room. In your greasy, spit-covered hands is a little foldable rectangle. That rectangle is the Game Boy Advance SP Black Edition. And in that plastic clamshell rests a game. Not just any game, but a game that will change your gray matter forever. This game is Pokemon? If you're anything like me, then Pokemon had a big impact on your childhood. While being just a mindless bab in the 90s during the peak of Pokemania, I got my taste of the franchise through hand-me-downs and the show airing in the early 00s. My infatuation with these highlighter-colored creatures really started when me and my family went to a tag sale, and at that tag sale was a child selling all his Pokemon stuff. The games, figures, and everything lined the table, and at that tag sale is where I got my first video game and console, Pokemon Silver, on the original eggnog-colored brick called the Game Boy. My first nibble at the core experience. I was such a loyal Pokemon fan as a kid that when my parents threatened to get me a Digimon VHS tape, I said no. I began crying, I threw a little fit. Why would they want to give me an inferior copy of the one true Mon? Now of course, they did get it for me for some reason, and I did enjoy it, but that's not really the point. That's nothing right now. At a supple young age, I was a Pokemon fan. It's what I talked to with my friends about. It's what I drew in school. Being a Pokemon trainer is what I wanted to grow up to be. I meticulously played every generation from 2, my first, all the way up to 5. I even went back and played the first generation, Red and Blue. But eventually, I did stop. Why? Well, I got Pokemon Platinum and Soul Silver day one. Even got the little statue that came with the pre-order. I played through those games all the time, did multiple playthroughs. I even went back when I got an action replay and put in lots of codes like spawn in any Pokemon or walk through walls. And I played through those games over and over again, enjoying every little playthrough. Then Black and White came out, Generation 5. For some reason, I was just not hyped. I didn't get it day one, I didn't get it week one. I only got it when I saw my friend Matt play it on the bus and decided, might as well. I liked Pokemon, but even when I did finally play them, I only played through the main story once. No post-game, no replays, none of that. Didn't have that much fun with it. Wasn't addicted to it. But why was the passion gone? Where did all the love go? At this point, it just felt like the same adventure over and over again. I guess I had just grown up. I had just grown out of it. The childlike wonder sparked out. It lost its luster. The games, and by extension its world, just didn't feel as alive anymore. Obviously, these games weren't real, but as a kid, they felt real. They felt alive. They felt lived in. At this point, I experienced fatigue from this franchise. You can only do the same thing so many times. I mean, each game, while it did have its own themes and story, it felt like the same thing over and over and over again, especially when you replay it as much as I did. I got a little sick and tired of the franchise I love. The sticky, wet honeymoon phase became a cold, dry indifference. Growing up, be a little bleak. This break would last a few years until I'd get kind of back into the series with Pokemon X and Y. The future games are already out at this point, Alpha, Sapphire, and Omega Ruby. Now there was no real reason I got back into the franchise. I mean, the Mega Evolutions were pretty cool, tickling your nostalgia bone a little bit, but overall, these games weren't that great. I didn't really like the new 3D graphics, the new characters, kind of unappealing. At this point, I guess I just had the nostalgia bug. I was jonesing for my fix, and they were trying to get people back into the series with Mega Evolutions, bringing back those first 3 starters, things like that. So then I got back into the series. I played the next couple games. I got Alpha Sapphire, played that on a trip. I got Pokemon Sun day one, and I even got Pokemon Ultra Sun day one, which in retrospect was a pretty big mistake because it was the same game pretty much. I did enjoy these games at the time. Music was still a bop. Some of the new Pokemon, old Pokemon's regional forms and Mega Evolutions were pretty cool, but that's just because I like the original Pokemon. To this day, I don't have the same feelings for those games as I do with the original ones I played as a kid. I have no urge to replay them. Was this just because of nostalgia? Was this just because I'd grown up and played more games like JRPGs and the simple Pokemon RPG system was boring at this point? Yeah, kind of, but not really at the same time. There's a little bit more to it though. Now as an adult, with an adult brain. Instead of focusing my energy on attracting a mate like my monkey ancestors would want, I will explain why new baby game is no good as before old baby game. Now when I'm referring to old, I generally mean gens 1 through 5 and new is 6+, but you know, we're gonna break those rules a little bit. Is that okay?
Okay.
With the new Uggo 3D graphics replacing the beautiful personality soap sprites of the original. It's no wonder I don't like it as much. The new models aren't bad, per se, but they just don't have the heart that the original sprites had. The new 3D models don't get my dopamine pumping. The original pixel art is honestly timeless. You could put that shit in a museum and you can't tell that between that and the Mona Lisa. Even the colors on the 3D models are less saturated than the original. It gives the world a more bland feeling. The new 3D models just don't have as much positive energy coming off of them. And I know that's made up and in my brain, but it's true. I mean, look at this guy compared to this guy. See this? Stinky, ew, putrid. Stinky, ew. This? Me likey this. Another reason is that the region feels way too linear. I mean, look at this. When you finished Johto, you had no idea Kanto was right there next to it, and you could go through the whole region. When you had to go to Fuchsia City in Red and Blue, you had the choice of using either the bike path or the other fuck around path. And that choice, that's cool. These new regions are glorified circles. There are no alternative paths because that would cost money for something a player might not see. The older regions had you opening up these Dark Souls-like shortcuts that would take you back when you least expected it. This made the world feel more real and lived in. Now, this next one might be a little petty, small brain take, but many of the new Pokemon introduced are real losers. They're a bit forgettable. I mean, look at these guys. I wouldn't let these guys around a kid, let alone my kid. These include Pokemon such as ones with overly simple designs, Pokemon that are just there to serve the same repeating role like the early root birds, like Ba. Then they're just the plain ugly ones. Ba. No one likes those ones, no matter what the Rule 34 would have you believe. Now there have always been loser Pokemon, like Seal, who's just a seal, but at that point, they're my losers. They're the losers I grew up with. There are over 1,000 Pokemon designs. Do we really need more clutter to clog up that drain? Not every generation needs to add so many Pokemon that a good percentage of them turn out to be garbage. Now, let's talk about the rivals. While the stories of the games never had the writing matching literary grade, they did have some cool and even quirked up characters. Remember Blue in the original games or Silver in their sequels? Now those guys, they were assholes. But we like assholes. Compared to the friendly shit we get nowadays, I'd rather take the assholes. You wanted to see these guys lose. You wanted to beat them. Now the bully or mean rival is perfect. They're a big fat meanie, and you want to prove them wrong when they talk shit, talk down to you, or even make fun of you. They give you the motivation to you, the player, to want to prove them wrong, and we like that. We really do. These characters even go through a little character arc where they grow, change, and learn. Ain't that something? Nowadays, the rivals tend to be just very buddy-buddy with you, very friendly, slap you on the ass, say good job. There's nothing wrong with a friendly character, but these guys, they're kind of boring. They're cardboard. They reek. They don't get mad when they lose. They don't throw bricks through your window during the middle of the night. They don't threaten to kill you. They won't fire guns into your house's siding as they drive by. That's just no fun. Now, of course, you don't need to be a mean asshole to be a good rival, but that is the most interesting thing Game Freak has come up with to this point, from what I've seen at least. If they could come up with something more compelling to be as a rival, then so be it. But from what I've seen, they can't really manage that. Then there's the challenge of these games. We were never playing no hard-ass Pokemon games, but of course, the main stories were a lot more challenging. In the newest games, Scarlet and Violet, there's a required EXP share. While it is nice not having to grind every Pokemon up to the level of your strongest Pokemon, this caused my Pokemon to be overleveled and the game to be made easy. It made any resistance dissipate. It done disappeared. The games are so easy nowadays, people resort to Nuzlocke and dipping your hand into boiling milk challenge. both are very real. I know Game Freak is trying to fight these kids against them pulling out their iPhone and playing Candy Crush, but they should really put more faith in these kids who play it. And for everybody else, they should put a hard mode in, just like Black and White 2, which I haven't played, but the idea of a hard mode, I like that. The implementation of a hard mode could add a little more challenge for those who want it. An easy baby mode could be for the rest of the people who really don't care. This could make people use more strategy, to make them think more, instead of using unga bunga brute force. Tutorials, 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 tutorials. Instead of letting the player figure out for themselves what to do in the game, how the game works, hours of tutorials are put in the front of the game. In the modern Pokemon games, you go through a slog of an opening to get to the actual gameplay. Now you still do battles and talk to people in the beginning and whatever, but there's a significant added amount of tutorials compared to the original games. The games have not gotten exponentially more complicated to justify these tutorials, they're just dumbed down for the dummies. I remember when Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon came out, it took over an hour to get through the tutorials, and when I finally did, I dropped my DS and lost all the progress. I'd never pick that game up again. Having to go through an hour of tutorials of basic stuff you already know is terrible. It's bad, it's no good. They put you through 2 Bibles worth of dialogue and hand-holding gameplay that is like walking through a mile-long sludgy swamp. I'm trying to say it's slow. Now, if there was an option to skip, that'd be no problem, but there's not. It treats every single player like they are the same idiot that the stupidest player is. But let's flip that on its head. Best-selling Pokemon game was the first one, and how much of a tutorial did that have? Like maybe like 15 minutes. The rest, you just talk to NPCs, you just play the game. In the older games, they taught you how to catch a Pokemon, and that was about it. The rest, you just learned through playing the game, or through NPCs that would tell you little tidbits and knowledge about the game world. Kids aren't as stupid as you think they are, so I have a little faith in them. When the games were still in handheld, they got the amount of polish that SpongeBob gave that single Krabby Patty, where he tucked in the pickles under the cheese, he put little smiley faces on them. Now that's polish. That's love. Now, the games are treated like when King Neptune made those 100 beef bun, no extras patties. They're gross, they're nasty, they're manufactured. Now, I know the games are on a tight schedule, and Game Freak has 2 employees making the game out of toothpicks and gum, but it shouldn't be that way. This isn't a good excuse. While the games were on handhelds, the games were tinier, they could be worked on by less people, and they could be made faster. But now that the games are much bigger, more work has to be put in, and they're not giving that extra time to do so. We don't need a new mainline Pokemon game every 3 years. Let them take their time on it. As an adult, 3 years goes by like that. You don't have enough time to appreciate the game you already have by the time the next one comes out. I can feel the lack of passion seeping through the screen, and it shouldn't be that way. Like it just came off the conveyor belt in a factory, which technically it did, but the product shouldn't feel like that. Now you may just be thinking I'm saying old good, new bad, and I kind of am. But this is just me pouring my little heart out for a series I used to love. I would kill over that series. I'm just laying all my feelings and shit out, regurgitated through my mouth hole to you. I mean, of course there have been good updates over time, but this video isn't about that. This is about what makes me upset. And I think at this point, the negatives outweigh the positives. If you enjoy the new games, that's good for you. You be winning. I think I could enjoy them a lot more if some problems were fixed. Now, if the new open world design, the possibilities are limitless, but a lot of the old problems still cling on like parasites. I'm sure that you have a few ideas of your own that could improve the games, right? At the end of the day, I just want the games to be better so I could enjoy them more, so everyone can enjoy them more. I think them taking more time with it wouldn't hamper the experience in any way and can only improve it. We should want more from the series we enjoy, and we should critique them more. I just wanted to get these ideas out. They've been festering in my headspace for a while now. That okay with you? Super. Bye.